A Roki Sasaki decision could come as early as the end of this week, beginning of next week. We also have some updates on trade possibilities, including the San Diego Padres, and what's next for a busy week that's expected for Alex Bregman and Anthony Santander. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe and join us here at The Upside. And let's get started. And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us this evening. Hopefully you guys had some fun watching some football games today. The Broncos, of course, were dispatched by the Buffalo Bills in relatively simple fashion. The Eagles marched on past the Packers, and it looks like the game that I was just watching, anyway, the Commanders and the Buccaneers was going to the very end with the Commanders having the ball. I did not see the end of that game yet anyway, but keeping an eye on the NFL playoffs. But here in baseball land, there's not a whole bunch that's happened over the weekend. The only news that we get today, really, is that a whole bunch of older pitchers that are coming off of injury might be options around the All-Star break or later on. That just tells me it's just a slow news day, and we already knew these headlines coming into this offseason. The one bit of actual news that we got today was the San Diego Padres are listening on not just their pitchers and guys on expiring deals that we mentioned before, but they're also now listening on some controllable talent as well. Two names that we brought up here before, one being Jake Cronenworth is one guy that's got control left on his deal. We proposed a trade a couple of weeks ago where Luis Castillo went to the San Diego Padres in exchange for Luis Arraez and Jake Cronenworth as a way for both teams to improve. Cronenworth and Arraez being the offensive stigma that the Mariners really have been looking for the last 3 or 4 years. And then the Padres get a starting pitcher with some control in that contract where you're going to lose 2 of those starters to free agency unless you sign them to an extension. That would give you the flexibility to trade Dylan Cease or whatever you wanted to do. But the headline today basically speculates that while they are listening on those names, they're looking to do so in a way that might be different than ways that they might have done so in the past. For instance, they're not just looking to offload a piece to get a piece back. They're not just offloading a piece just to get a prospect. They're trying to walk and chew gum, essentially, is what it sounds like with the Padres' ownership contention that's going on right now. Kind of offloading some long-term dollars on Cronenworth's deal might be good for their long-term financial outlook, but I think they're more looking towards improving the product on the field for 2025. The names that were specifically mentioned, Robert Suarez, their closer anyway. You also have Cronenworth, who I mentioned, Luis Arraez, Dylan Cease, and there's like 4 or 5 other names that they bring up in the article. I don't necessarily buy some of the other names that they mentioned there, but I do think that the one name that they said they were most hesitant to trade was Luis Arraez, and only because of the impact he will have on their 25 roster. I told you guys, Luis Arraez is an impact bat, and they are going to miss his bat in that lineup if they trade him away. So you have to get some type of offensive piece to come back in there, especially for the cogs in that offense that you brought in, like Xander Bogaerts, that really haven't lived up to that contract. And by trading away one of your better offensive pieces in Luis Arraez, you have to have some piece to come in and take over that role. Or you're just going to have to hope for the best with Xander Bogaerts. So as far as the trade for the Padres, I still think they're going to try to trade a couple of their expiring deals. Now, I was kind of hopeful as a Ranger fan that if the Rangers didn't get Kirby Yates or Ryan Helsley, who they've been connected to, or several other options, that maybe they go out there to the San Diego Padres and peel away a Jason Adam, who has closing experience with the Tampa Bay Rays before he got dealt to the Padres. He has eighth inning setup role experience as well. Maybe you do a stack and you get both. I think that was a little bit unlikely, but now with the report today coming out that the Padres are looking at all different aspects of improving their roster, including trading away their closer and their eighth inning setup guy and other controllable contracts off of that roster, makes me wonder what exactly is going on behind the scenes there in San Diego. I'm sure the lawsuit's going to have some type of effect on as far as how the team is run financially, but I'm sure they're going to still be able to operate as normally constructed. For instance, right now they're sitting around a $208 million payroll. With the luxury tax implications, they're a little bit over when you factor in everything that has to go into those calculations. They're about $2 to $3 million over the luxury tax. I'm sure they'd love to dip underneath that, but we will see what they do there. But I think the Padres' best course of action for themselves would be just to have a clear direction forward more than anything else. Just let A.J. Preller be A.J. Preller. Let him get into those big situations like we've seen him do in the past, which is what he did last year, getting out of the Juan Soto business and into the Luis Arraez and Dylan Cease business. Now I think he needs to quickly divest himself of those situations, and we'll see what happens. But I think the Padres are a nice place to start with when it comes to the trade market before spring training. Welcome in Holly, Johnny, Nando, Doc. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Any chance Bregman re-signing a short-term deal with the Astros? Not a chance. Chances of Bregman going back to the Astros are less than zero. It's safe to say he's not going back to the Astros. He is going to get a multi-year deal. The question is, do the Red Sox get him on that deal? Do the Tigers get him on that deal? Or if by some miracle the Blue Jays convince Vlad Guerrero to sign that extension, do the Blue Jays come out the winner of the Alex Bregman sweepstakes? I don't think there's a world in which Bregman returns to the Houston Astros at this point. Not even on Earth's, 7,000. I don't think there's an opportunity there either. So no, he's not going back to Houston. Holly, Commanders won 23-20. I had a feeling last time I saw it was about the 2-minute warning and they were at the 45-yard line. So glad to see they were able to pull it out. Rookie quarterback advancing in the playoffs. Tough break, though, for Baker Mayfield, but they had zero, and I mean zero, defense all year. Their defense was terrible. Honestly, I'd be looking to change coaches there. I think Bowles runs a nice organization, but his defense has really gotten holy over the last couple of years. Either A, you get rid of whoever's making the decisions on as far as bringing in the personnel for the defense, or B, you make a change if you think the talent is there and the scheme wasn't there. Or the talent was there, but the scheme wasn't working. So I don't think the talent was necessarily there. I think you have Winfield and you have Vita Vea, but outside of that, you don't really have a lot of high-end talent there. Joe Tryon Triaca, I think is his name, one of the other building blocks that they have. But the Bucks, they need some defense in the draft. Alrighty, Nando, Flaherty willing to take a shorter deal means he wishes the Dodgers offer him a deal. Honestly, I don't think he's willing to take a deal, a short-term deal. We just saw Jack Flaherty sign a one-year deal after struggling in the second half with the Baltimore Orioles, signed a one-year pillow type of a contract with the Detroit Tigers, worked great in the first half with Detroit. Detroit would love to do something like that again, absolutely, but I don't think there's a world in which Flaherty signs a short-term contract. He wants to get that long-term money, whether it's 3 to 5 years, whatever the contract turns out to be. I think there is a market out there still for him. The Cubs, I thought, were one of those teams that could have been a fit there. They chose to go with Colin Ray on a one-year, $5 million deal. But teams in on Flaherty still could be the Baltimore Orioles. They've kicked the tires on him. The Atlanta Braves, the Toronto Blue Jays, and there's several teams out there that still need some starting pitching. And Flaherty, when he is right, is probably a good number 2 in somebody's rotation. When he's not right, is probably a 4-5. So I think that variance is why he hasn't signed yet. And how he really finished the year is another kind of a question mark with how he will fare in free agency. But I think he'll still get a long-term deal. I don't think he takes another one-year deal at this point in his career. Doc, San Diego getting Tatis to waive his no movement clause would get a haul. Yes, it would, but I would have said, what did I say, about a year ago when we were talking about the suspension issue, the PED things for Fernando Tatis. That was the time to try to pry him away from the Padres organization. They're not going to do it now. It's the one positive, really positive contract that they have on their books. If you could pay down enough money on Bogart's deal, I think they would love to have that one over again. They still have good value on Machado's deal, and they have several talented players already locked up long term. They can just kind of tinker around the periphery of this team by making smaller trades, like they did to bring in Luis Ariz and Dylan Cease, bringing in smaller value contracts anyway to kind of build out this roster on a budget. But with the ownership issues that they're having, finances are going to be a little bit of an issue for them going forward. I don't see them playing in the pool of the $30 million free agent for the next couple of years at least. Maybe Roki Sasaki goes there and helps out that pitching staff, in which case they don't need to sign Dylan Cease to an extension or Michael King. They can go with what they got and hope for some internal improvements, maybe sign a guy on a one-year deal. That would be an option they could go. But all kinds of different ways San Diego can go this offseason. They might be the team that kind of changes the most from the way we view them now to the way we view them when spring training starts in about a month. They might have the most activity left in them as far as the teams that are still out there waiting to make moves. Atlanta is another one to keep an eye on as well. Sergeant Hayes, welcome in. Abraham, welcome back. What's the chances of Arenado to Seattle? Slim, but I wouldn't say zero. I think Seattle's looking under, all rocks to see what kind of offense they can muster up, and if they can get a good deal, get him on a discount, whatever the case may be, maybe they get it done, but I put the odds at less than 10%. I don't think it's overly likely. I think if there's an injury somewhere, like I've been mentioning the last couple of weeks now, an injury at third, first, or DH on a team, then we see a whole new market open up for Arenado, and then we could easily see him moved either before spring training or before opening day, but I don't think there's any way he takes the field starting opening day with the St. Louis Cardinals unless something went seriously wrong. Sergeant Hayes, which big player could you see going to spring training still unsigned? Big player to spring training? Good question. I'm going to say Bregman and Santander both get signed relatively soon. Sasaki's going to be signed before the 23rd. That would leave you, Jack Flaherty? I think he gets signed as well. Andrew Heaney, I think he probably gets signed by then as well. There's not a whole lot of great talented players left on the free agent market as far as who would be left as unsigned. I think even Pete Alonso gets his deal done by before then. I don't think there's really anybody that's a big name that's going to miss getting a contract before spring training. Now, there's going to be every year, there's always a few first basemen that don't get signed before spring training. They end up having to take non-roster invitee type of deals, and then they, wow somebody in the spring training, and then they somehow make it onto the roster for the first month or so. And then the team sees how it works out, but that's kind of the only players I see as far as being the ones that are left unsigned, I guess, before spring training. Paranormal, just joining. Any news on the Yankees and what happening around the league? I missed 2 or 3 days off the off season. Not too much news actually over the last couple of days. I'm thinking the market was kind of enjoying the weekend. Trying to keep everybody safe with the colder temperatures in the south. You had the fires out in the West Coast. You had the college football playoff going on. You have NFL playoffs going on, kind of made for a slow news weekend anyway for Major League Baseball. But we did get a little bit of news Friday. Kittredge goes to the Baltimore Orioles. That's the one actual piece of information. As far as the Yankees news, welcome in Nicholas. As far as the Yankees news that you guys are mentioning here, they're still looking primarily at second and third base. I keep hearing all kinds of different rumors as far as new names that are being popped out there. I'm not even going to list them because I think the list right now is over 30 names I've heard in connection with the Yankees in second or third base. I'll put it this way. It's going to be a cheap, low-cost option, whoever they bring in. It's not going to be Luis Ariz. As much as they tried to kick the tires on it internally, there was no real discussions had with San Diego as far as Luis Ariz. That never got off the ground. As much as I'd hoped for it if I was a Yankee fan, as much as I think it would help their lineup, giving them an impact bat on a lower cost deal with only 1 year there before he hits free agency, I thought it would have been a perfect acquisition for them. Ultimately, the Yankees don't think so. So they've moved on in a different direction. They don't think Bregman's worth the money, at least to where their financial situation is right now. Arenado's out of their price range. They're trying to move on from Stroman. They're trying to drum up a market for Stroman more than anything else. That way they don't have to attach too many prospects to him to offload that salary. But make no mistake, you're going to have to offload him with some talent in order to get anything at all in return, or even just to get somebody to take that contract off their books. I floated a couple of trade ideas the other day about the Los Angeles Angels as far as one way they could be smart for the first time in years as far as their decisions to trade or sign players would be to try to use that financial might that Artie Moreno has to try to make a quote-unquote big splash by taking on the bad contracts off of another team and getting the prospects off of that team in order to make it worth your while. Use your money as a resource like we saw with the Mets, how they used the contracts of Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. Do something very similar to that. I likened it back to the days when the Los Angeles Dodgers first came to being a successful team in this beginning of their run in 2010, 2011, whenever that trade was that sent Adrian Gonzalez, Crawford, basically all the bad money contracts, David Price to the Los Angeles Dodgers in exchange for a less than quality package back. That type of a trade really set the Dodgers up for this, what began their run of great success in the NL West, and they continue to have great success to this day. So we shall see. Sasaki news. So this is where we'll start here with the actual news of the day. Roki Sasaki, anyway, is still out there. He's going to sign between the 15th and the 23rd. Joel Wolf says he expects it to be towards at least a couple of days into that window there. Remember, International Bonus Pool starts on the 15th. That's why you can't trade for additional bonus pool money until that date. So we could see a flurry of trades on that date, both by teams looking to bring in Sasaki and other teams trying to acquire international bonus pool money in case the team that does sign Sasaki is no longer able to sign their players they committed to at international free agency. So we should see a bunch of activity around the 15th as far as trades both at the major league level and as far as prospects as well. As far as where Sasaki is going to go, I'm sure he's already started his meetings here as far as in the cities themselves, meeting at the facility, seeing what the city looks like, seeing what the training facility is going to look like, where his new home away from home is going to be, all those kinds of things, making sure the organization is the best fit for him. I'm sure he's started those meetings. We have no confirmation as far as any meetings he's actually taken. I've heard as many as 8 teams are now quote-unquote in the market now for him. I'm sure that there are more than 8 teams that are in the market for him, but 8 that have at least met with him face-to-face a week ago anyway in LA and in New York when he was hosting meetings at that point. He has since gone back to Japan and I believe is going to be heading back to the States at some point. We don't really know his travel plans. He's keeping everything kind of on the down low right now. But we'll see where he goes. I don't think anybody, if you're seeing any reports out there that say, oh, he's leaning one way or he's leaning another, just throw that out. Like, even if it's coming from a reputable source, I have serious question marks about it because not even the agent knows where he's leaning at this point. Originally, Joel Wolf even thought the media would play a big factor in his decision as far as at least some type of an impact as far as where he might be willing to sign. Ultimately, Sasaki told him, no. While the media did affect me in Japan, it will not be a deciding factor in where I go. He wants to be the greatest pitcher he could possibly be, and that's where he's going to go to. So if you think your team is going to give him the best chance to be the greatest pitcher he can be, by all means, think you're the favorites for him. But until he says so, until he signs on the dotted line, I'll believe it when I see it. All right, Anthony, welcome back. Appreciate you joining us once again. Tim, welcome back. Anthony, if it's not the New York Mets personality-wise, where do you think Vlad Guerrero Jr. will fit the best in terms of locker room fit, Michael? Honestly, I think Vlad fits pretty much everywhere. He is a very, happy-go-lucky guy. I think he'd be a great fit in pretty much any locker room. I think he'd be a fit on the field pretty much anywhere as well. You can play him a little bit at third base if you're blocked at first base already. You can play him at DH, obviously, and his natural position now is first base. I think he'd be a fit pretty much in all teams around baseball right now, outside of the teams that are not competing for top-flight free agents or being able to bid on $30+ million contracts in average annual value. Guerrero's going to do great in free agency. If you're looking to trade for him, I think those chances are very slim, if not zero, completely right now. Because I think the Blue Jays are trying to get an extension done with him before spring training. The one that I would be trying to keep my eyes on as far as who could sign an extension before spring training is Framber Valdez of the Houston Astros. That would be where I would look, because if they don't get the extension done, while I think his contract length is probably going to be 5 years, around $30 million, that's roughly the biggest contract that the Astros are comfortable signing as far as their own guys in free agency. So if they don't feel comfortable doing so at that number, they're going to have to trade him like they did Kyle Tucker. And then, maybe just then, we could see a deal. Maybe he goes to the Orioles, maybe the Mets. Any number of teams would open up possibilities there. But for the Astros fans out there, they've done a nice job extending their window. But make no mistake, they are no longer a World Series favorite on the American League side. That's why the American League is very much considered a wide open thing right now, and we'll see who ultimately wins it. Yankees are technically the favorite on the AL side. Astros are still a favorite to get to the wild card or win the division. Rangers are in that mix as well. Guardians, Tigers, Royals, Orioles, Red Sox, Rays to some extent. I'm sure I'm leaving out a team here. The Mariners, if they add some offense. But we still have about 3-4 weeks left until pitchers and catchers report. But I would expect a very busy week this week around Major League Baseball. Possibly a Bregman and Santander signing. Alonso, I think, would follow very quickly thereafter. Maybe we get a Stroman deal that would offload some salary there. I would expect the closer market to finally make some movement here. We're seeing some headlines come out about as far as trade interest now on other closers that are available. I just mentioned the Robert Suarez thing from the Padres. That's one of many possibilities on the trade market as well. All right, Tim, do you think the Yankees will trade Stroman? I do. I think they will find a taker. I think they're going to have to attach an asset to him. I think they're trying to hold off on that as long as they can until they have to do it. But I think they will move on from him. Paranormal, anything better than DJ Old Man on the base? DJ LeMahieu? I'll put it this way. As things currently stand, I wouldn't be surprised if DJ LeMahieu plays a lot more than Yankees fans are necessarily comfortable with, unless they bring in somebody else to improve that infield, which I think they will do. But as currently constructed, DJ is probably going to get a lot more playing time until they get that addition. I think they will make an addition. I think they'll make another addition as far as an impact bat at the trade deadline, which, maybe they find a taker to offload DJ LeMahieu. That was another one of the trade hypotheticals we made with the Angels, offloading LeMahieu and Stroman to the Angels in exchange for basically the room to be able to sign or go after somebody via trade and take on their money in another trade. That would be something I would see the Yankees doing, or looking to investigate the possibilities of getting something like that done. I'm sure all baseball teams are looking around all avenues right now, but we'll see where they go. Let's see here. Nicholas, to me, sir, rise isn't going to happen. I'll live. Man, I saw a Yankee chat. Donovan like that would happen. I'll put it this way. A rise isn't happening. They never even talked to the Padres about it. They'd only discussed it internally, basically said, we don't like his defense. We don't like the possibility of what we'd have to give up for him, so no thanks. As far as Donovan, I keep hearing it from pretty much all Yankees fans. I'll mention that again, fans. What is that short for? Fanatic? Have I heard any concrete reporting as far as Donovan being a name that's being discussed or anything along those lines between the Cardinals and the New York Yankees? No. I get the Yankees' infatuation with the guy. I think he'd be a great fit, but I just don't think there's any way that the Cardinals would offload him to the Yankees. I think they're looking to move on from Arenado and then just keep Donovan around this year and see what they have at the end of the year and see where if they're a contending team or ready to be a contending team in 26. That's their plan for 25 right now. Nicholas, I'd like to see Sasaki to Yanks, Bregman to the Tigers, Alonso to the Mariners. Alonso to the Mariners, I'd say, is a 0% chance of happening. They don't have the financial resources to get that one done unless they offload Luis Castillo, take no money back, and then give him every free agent dollar that they have left to spend in their budget to him. That ain't happening, and he ain't going to sign a short-term deal there either, and they ain't going to be able to give him a long-term deal either. They ain't going to be able to afford it. So I would scratch that one out as far as a possibility. Bregman to the Tigers, I think, has real legs. I think that's where he wants to go, but they're very hesitant to give another big money deal because they've been burned on pretty much most of their big money deals that they've given away. Jordan Zimmerman years ago, Javi Baez, Miggy Cabrera, even their own guy, looked poorly down the end of that deal. Prince Fielder was a bad contract they signed. Luckily, they were able to pawn it off to the Texas Rangers, who ended up having to pay it while he was injured at the end of his career. As far as the Yankees, I think Sasaki going anywhere would be a great fit. But as far as just interesting for baseball, I would like to see Bregman to the Tigers just to see where they really elevate to. Sasaki to the Yankees, the headlines would be great, especially if the Yankees get to face the Dodgers in the World Series again. Sasaki versus Yamamoto, Sasaki versus Ohtani. The headlines write themselves right there. As far as Alonso, I don't think he's going anywhere besides to the New York Mets this year. He gave the Mets basically all the power in this in his free agent negotiating as well, by basically going to the team and saying, "Hey, you're the only team I'd be willing to sign a short-term deal with. Sign me, sign me, sign me." And we still see him sitting out there. So he might have lowered his overall income that he could get, but it sounds like he really wants to stay there. And if that's where he wants to be, if it's worth him to lose worth it to lose the money that he could get by playing this out the way he has, then so be it. He gets to play where he wants to go. So I guess that's the important part there. Vlad to the Boston Red Sox. That would be an interesting one. The fit with Casas would be interesting there as well. Yoshida's the DH, but obviously Guerrero is a better player than any of those that I just mentioned. But would be interesting. I would agree with you there. Tucker to the Yankees next year. I think that's a possibility. Tucker pretty much anywhere next year is a possibility. Let's see here. Anthony. Would the Marlins have to give up way too much for Valdez from Houston because we just lost Braxton Garrett to injury? And we can sign him to an extension. Marlins aren't signing anybody to an extension. They're trying to bottom out as a franchise. I'm sorry, Anthony. You're going to be going through yet another, let's say it together, rebuild for the Florida Marlins. So they just weren't able to execute their plan last year because of poor performance and injuries in their rotation. That was supposed to be their summer at the deadline to really capitalize on the market. And the pieces that they had to trade weren't worth it. So they're going to try to redo it all over again this year. Let's see here. Try to catch up on a few of these comments. Ethan, Dylan Cease trade after Roki signs. I think that's a very real possibility. I think Roki is holding up the trade market as well. Cease is probably the best starting pitcher as far as ace level pitcher that's available on the market right now. That could change with other names being popped out there in trade talks. But right now, I'd say he's probably the top banana there. Welcome back, Verlis. John, Steven, Yodel, appreciate you guys joining us. Cobra, welcome back. Any Yankees news? We just went over that just a second ago, if you want to check that one out. But Stroman is being dangled by the Yankees right now. They're trying to get somebody to take him without having to attach prospects to him. Unfortunately for them, he's not on a positive contract right now. They're going to have to attach an asset to him to offload that salary. And sorry, but that's just the way things go when you have a bad contract on your books. Stroman is not the same pitcher he once was. He still has value, which is why a team that's looking to acquire him would hope to be able to flip him at the deadline and basically have a free player for him. But we'll see what happens. I think the Yankees will be able to find a suitor, though. Teams like the Marlins, Rays, and A's still need to add salary. That would be one way they could do it. But I'm sure they're not going to do it just to help out the Yankees out of their financial quandary. But they are still looking for a left-handed reliever. They're still looking for an eighth-inning setup guy. They're still looking for a replacement for Stroman when they do trade him. And they're still looking for, yes, a middle infielder who can play third base as well. Let's see here. Welcome in, Yodel. Ethan, I know this is baseball, but been hearing Zion getting traded to the Mavs before the deadline. Gafford, Kleba, Marshall, Exum going to the Pelicans with a protected first. I have heard a few rumors about Zion getting traded. I don't believe them. Mainly because I don't think he's available enough. I would rather have had Herb Jones before he had the injury that he just had a week ago. Right now I think Dallas pretty much stands pat and maybe tries to add a wing at the deadline. But other than that, I don't see them doing anything big like a Zion Williamson. Gafford and Marshall have too big of an impact on this team right now that Zion, just having him available would be a big question mark. Could he be at the number 4 in that lineup? Sure. And put Washington on the bench, or maybe move Thompson to the bench. But I don't think they're going to give up Gafford and Marshall and a pick for Zion. I think you'd have to get something back in addition to Zion, cheap contract, some second-round picks, something like that to make it worth my while. But I'm still not trading for Zion because he's not available. And you already have two superstars out right now due to injury. You have several guys who've missed time already due to injury. You don't need to add to that list, add to that risk by bringing in Zion this year. Now, in the offseason, maybe we revisit the conversation. Verlis, Donovan to anywhere less than 5%. The Cardinals love the guy. I would say Donovan to anywhere less than 1%. Yes, the Cardinals absolutely love him. That's why I don't think he's going to be traded anywhere. Cobra, Sasaki on the Padres would make the Padres versus Dodgers most watched, in my opinion. I think Sasaki on any team versus the Dodgers would make it must watch baseball for us. Really would help the ratings issues that MLB has from time to time. John S., will there be any trades this week? I would expect so. I would expect at least a couple of them. I'm expecting Bregman possibly get done this week. Expecting the closer market. Everything's going to have to start getting moving here. We saw some of that activity open up this week, this past week anyway. I'm expecting more activity this week as well. Jay Snow, welcome back. John, welcome in. Cruise Control, welcome back. Appreciate you joining us once again. Thank you for the well wishes. Saw those comments and appreciate all the good thoughts you guys have had for us as I was recovering from a pretty good bout of the flu. I didn't actually go see a doctor, did the whole telehealth thing because every place I went to had a 4-hour long wait. And I wanted to get in and out pretty quickly and didn't have time to pal around and wait around in a lobby all day long. So went ahead and did the telehealth, got some meds. They seem to be working, but I wonder if I got a little something else going on in the chest. But doing much better, though. So thank you guys for the well wishes over the last few days. It's been very helpful. Thank you guys for being so understanding anyway. All right, let's catch up on a few of these comments here. Someone will take Stroman and the Yankees will have to eat some of the money. Yes, someone will take Stroman. I'm not sure if they will have to eat the money if they give up the right prospects. Good night, Nicholas. Thank you for joining us. John, Michael, would you have to consider... who would you consider trade target that might include Jack Leiter or Duran? So basically, if I'm in the Rangers front office, who would I be willing to trade Jack Leiter for? Or Ezekiel Duran? Leiter, right now, I wouldn't trade him to anybody. And that's not because I think he's the most valuable piece on the team. It's just I think he's got more value to me as a member of the Texas Rangers than he does in a trade for somebody else. As far as Duran, I don't think there's a great possibility he finds consistent playing time this year, which is my big worry for him. That and Justin Foskey, both of those guys are consistently blocked. Maybe they're able to find a trade partner for them. Maybe a reliever comes back the other way. Maybe they bring somebody back, a lower-end prospect or a lower A-ball prospect there as well. We floated some ideas about going to the Brewers and offloading John Gray's deal there, and maybe a Josh Smith, and then you flex in Duran over there at first base and just kind of mix in that group there. Those are all different possibilities, but Leiter I'm not trading at all unless I bring in a guy like Roki Sasaki and then I go after Jordan Montgomery. Then I've got too many starters. Then maybe I'd consider a Jack Leiter trade if it meant an impact piece coming back, and he doesn't have enough value on the market to give you an impact piece back. So Leiter I don't think is a real consideration. Duran, though, has some decent value still. You might be able to get a decent reliever for him. For instance, the Padres, we just mentioned the Robert Suarez angle there. Maybe you send Duran to them, give them a good infield option, kind of like Jerks and Profar. Multi-positional player that they can use everywhere. If they don't get a deal done with Profar, then they have their in-house option with Duran. Or if Arise is traded, then you have Duran coming in and filling in a spot, and you send Adam or Suarez back to the Rangers. That would be a trade I could see for the Rangers that would make sense to trade Duran, but I don't see one that makes sense for Jack Leiter. Cashman always finds bullpen arms. Yes, he does. John S., when will Sasaki sign? Good question there, John. He will sign between the 15th and the 23rd. That's when the international bonus pool opens up and when the posting window closes. As far as when that deal will happen between those days, I would say at least by between the 17th and the 23rd. I don't expect it to happen in the first couple of days because, again, we're expecting a flurry of activity, trades that could not happen until the 15th of January because of that international bonus pool money. If you want to add bonus pool money for 2025, you have to trade for it after the 15th. So that's when we should see some several trades as far as for major league talent, as well as for minor leaguers being traded from one team to another to increase the ability to take on or to give more money to Sasaki or to give more money to the international free agents that miss out on a team because Sasaki signed with that club. So I'd say between the 17th and 23rd is more realistic. Cruise control. How much would Polanco cost the Yankees AAV since Jack Curry mentioned him? I wouldn't say a whole lot. I think he was making around 10, somewhere around there about a year or so ago. I'm not sure what he made this year. If I had to guess how much he would actually cost a team this year, I'd say between probably $4 or $5 million. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's a big payment for a player of his caliber nowadays. To me, he's an injury replacement. He's not a stalwart at a position anymore. He's more of a good bench player at this point. And I would say if you're counting on him to make 130 starts at third base for you, you should have gone a different direction. Now, if he plays, say, 100 games for you off the bench, starting a few games at second base, a few games at third base, you mix him in with some of the younger talent there. Maybe you have another guy that you bring in that's an impact bat at the deadline that takes some of its at-bats away. Then I'd say that's the best way to utilize him. But if you're counting on him for more than that, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed in the production that you ultimately receive out of him. Jay Snow, Polanco was atrocious last year. He wasn't great, I'll put it that way. Angelo Productions, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. If the Yankees get Roki, I'll literally run around shirtless in the backyard in 20-degree weather. I think every fan base would do that right now. Ethan, who is some MLB vets willing to take minor league deals? Several of them. I'd say look at the older outfielders, look at the older first baseman, DH market. Those guys easily will sign minor league deals with invites to Major League Spring Training to see if they can latch on with a team. We see that every year. As far as pitchers, look for a lot of relievers to sign deals that, say they sign a minor league deal, but if they break camp with a big league club, they get $2 million. We'll see a lot of those type of deals as well. Jay Snow, 4-hour long wait. Where do you live in the middle of the sticks? No, I live in a pretty good sized city anyway. I got about 220,000. I think our city's actually bigger than that now anyway. But about an hour and a half east of Dallas, but pretty good sized city. But every urgent care that I went to that was in network for my insurance was ridiculous as far as the wait time. And every one that wasn't in network turned out to be an emergency room, and they were going to charge me just to be seen to see if I had a flu. They were charging me like $700. I'm like, hold up. Let me see if I can do this teledoc thing that I used to have on my previous insurance. And I found one, basically did like $30 and did the whole online questionnaire. They called, took 20 seconds, done. Instead of trying to run all over town, trying to figure that out, that was a hassle. Teledoc was the way to go. Unless my symptoms get worse, then I'll go see an actual doc. But as you can tell, my voice is getting better, sounding better. Still think I got a little bit of fluid in the lungs, but we'll see. Cobra, I think the Padres are waiting on Sasaki, then they will make some moves. I think that's also what they're waiting for because I think that's what's going to impact their trade market the most. If they bring in Sasaki, then they're going to have a plan to build around him. If they don't bring in Sasaki, that's going to affect where Dylan Cease might go, what the price might be for him, and what the Padres' needs in their starting rotation will be as well. Duran for Monty, and the D-backs pay $15 million if the Rangers miss on Roki. Honestly, I wouldn't mind that deal. I think the Diamondbacks paying $15 million would be a little bit of a stretch. Duran, I think, would be a little bit of an overpay for Monty as well. I'd rather have the future of Duran than 1 year of Monty, even though I think he'd be a great starting pitcher in the Rangers rotation this year because they need some guys with some length. Monty should be a guy that would give them some length out of that rotation. Right now, I don't think you can count on any of the starters in the Ranger rotation outside of a John Gray or a Nathan Eovaldi to give you a guaranteed 125 innings. Beyond that, you got DeGrom, missed a lot of time due to injury. Molly missed a lot of time due to injury. Kumar Rocker, never done it at this level. Jack Leiter, never done it at this level. Bradford's never pitched over 100 innings in his major league career, and also very young. So getting a guy that's proven to be an innings eater in the past would be a good option for the Rangers. I just think Duran would be a bit of a pricey point, and for $15 million, the Diamondbacks would be right to try to ask for that because that's a big payment on the Montgomery deal. Now, they did invest the money there. Just saving any money off of that deal, I guess, would be a good thing for them. But maybe, just clearing off the roster spot would be the thinking there. Clear off some of the logjam behind in that middle infield group that you have there with Foscue, Smith, Duran, Young, Seager, Simeon, Ornelas as well. I think Ornelas has a good chance to break camp with the big league club this year. Let's see here. Jay Snow, Yankees get Roki. I'm trading a pitcher for a position player. I would agree there. I think Stroman's the easiest one to offload, but I wouldn't be too quick to offload some of those starting pitchers at the moment because, again, all it takes is one injury and then you take a position of strength and now you're looking for another starter at the deadline. So I would wait until your chickens have hatched before you go ahead and try to eat them. So, or whatever that you're counting your chickens before they hatch, whatever that phrase is. You know what I mean. Let's see here. Roki is not going east. Possibly. I mean, they are one of the 6-7 teams that are quote-unquote favorites. But I'll believe that the Dodgers are the favorite among all the teams out there. But I wouldn't say anybody's a guaranteed, hey, we got him, lock, stock, and barrel. Nothing like that. But I would say that there's a good chance Roki probably goes to the Dodgers. And then any one of the other teams that's still in the mix there, the 7 or 8 teams that have been mentioned, I think he probably goes to one of those. I don't think we'll see a dark horse outside of the group of teams. That's crazy, but it seems like everyone has the flu right now. My sister just had it, and they didn't even give her any medicine. Yeah, they don't really give it to you. They try to tell you it's drug resistant. See if you can get over it without any drugs. But I was pretty bad, man. When I'm starting, I'm a pretty tough guy. When I don't miss work, ever. Only recently, the last year or so, I finally started to get hit by the illnesses. And when I used to get sick when I was a kid, I was, 6 months I'd have a cold. I just could never shake it. But I would always still go to work. Probably why I kept the cold for so long is because I would wear myself down so much because I was working all the time. But I've never missed work. And Friday morning I go into work and I've literally got the chills so bad. I've got goosebumps on my arms and I'm literally shivering there as I'm trying to help them out, help customers out at the store. And I'm like, this ain't going to work. But 4 other people had already called in that day. I wasn't going to be the 5th one. And then basically we were very slow that day, thankfully. And my boss was took one more look at me after she had finally ordered pizza for everybody. And they had all gotten a chance to eat. She's like, all right, we got it. Get out. And so I was like, okay, thank you. She was very kind. So it's one good thing about having a good boss with someone you respect, somebody who has your back. They can see when you need to take a minute, need to take a knee, and she said that was my time to take a knee. So she's always been very good about that. All right, Cobra, isn't Jack Flaherty available? Yes, he is. Flaherty is still out there on the market. He was one of 3 players that was floated by several media members as being willing to take a short-term deal. Go ahead and ball that report up and throw that one away. Jack Flaherty will not be looking forward to a short-term deal. Now, if that's the only deal he gets, then I guess that's what he's going to have to sign. But I think he's going to be looking for and be able to secure a multi-year contract, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years, remains to be seen. But Flaherty is a good pitcher. We just saw him struggle with the Orioles as he was heading towards free agency, signed a 1-year pillow deal with the Detroit Tigers, pitched great for the Tigers, and then struggled down the stretch with the Dodgers. And, of course, in the postseason, we all saw what happened there. I think he's going to look for that long-term stability in that contract, but it might be reflected in the average annual value as far as the what the deal is ultimately worth. So I'd say probably $17 to $20 million, maybe 25 gets it done for Flaherty, but we'll see where he goes. I've seen some reports have his market down as low as 3 years for $40 million. I think that would be an absolute bargain if you could somehow convince him to take that deal. But I've seen other reports that have him for 5 years at $125 million. I think he's going to be somewhere between that range. I don't think he's going to get nearly that high. I don't think he's going to get nearly that low. I think a Nathan Eovaldi type contract is about the roof for me. I think a 3 for 60 type of a deal, 3 for 55 could be kind of the low end of that deal. So if you're comfortable on a 3-year deal for say 17 $18 million to $25 million, you could make a room for Jack Flaherty in your rotation. So we'll see where he goes. But as far as a short-term deal, you can kiss that report and goodbye. That ain't happening. Jay Snow, I don't care. The Yankees need bats. I'd trade a Clark Schmidt. He's got controllable years. He would have more value, absolutely, than Marcus Stroman, but I think they're trying to save money more than anything else right now. Now, if you're saying trade Stroman and Clark Schmidt, I think they would need to add some starting pitching if they got rid of both of those arms. Then their depth would really be lacking there. I think it already needs to. They already need to bring in another guy. You could give me the Clayton Beater argument and a couple other guys that they have coming, but for me, you can never have too many arms. You look at what the Texas Rangers have done the last 2 years. You could argue the single biggest reason why they won the World Series in 2023 was their starting pitching, not because of their 1-2-3 that they had envisioned coming into the year with DeGrom and Eovaldi, etc. It was the guys they had traded for that really helped make that team more secure and be able to handle things down the stretch. Remember, that team was faltering down the stretch. Max Scherzer, everybody thinks of how he was injured for the Rangers all the time. He was the only solid starting pitcher basically from the month of August into mid-September for the Texas Rangers when that team was floundering and able to just barely get into the postseason and ultimately go on their run. Now, of course, Scherzer was injured towards the end, but his swing and miss stuff last year was also still really good. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a very good deal this offseason. I'm looking at Justin Verlander's 1 at 15 is very comparable to what he could get this offseason, but his numbers still look a lot better than Justin Verlander's did last year. Verlander just looked a little bit cooked, we'll say. As far as the rest of the Rangers on that team, Eovaldi was a late signing in free agency because, hey, he's still out there. We have an opportunity to really push the pedal forward. We need more pitching. You can never have enough. So they went out there and got Eovaldi. Well, they make the trade for Scherzer. You think, they're done adding some starting pitching. They go out there and add Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton as well. So you can never have too much starting pitching. So don't look at your starting rotation and say, hey, we got 5 good ones. We have a couple of good ones in the wings. Well, what happens when the 2 in your starting rotation go down? One of them for the year. One of those guys is eventually going to go down for a year. It's very unlikely that a team makes it through a 162-game season with that rotation intact. I think the Rangers in 2011 were one of the last teams to really have, all 5 guys make pretty much every start that season. I'm sure I'm missing a team or two in between there, but that was one of the rarest cases we've ever seen as far as a club having their starting 5 in their rotation make all of the starts that year. And having that level of consistency is great, but you have to have probably 3 guys that you can count on to at least make some spot starts for you, probably to be able to pitch a month in that starting rotation at certain points during the season. So don't be so quick to offload those starting pitchers. But if he does go, or say Roki does go to the Yankees, that would give him another option in that rotation. And then maybe have the ability to move off of Stroman and Clark Schmidt. But I'd still be looking to hold on to as many starters as possible because, again, you can never have too much. Say it with me, starting pitching. Alrighty, Cobra, Arenado is still available for trade to right? Yes, he is still available to trade. Yes, Cardinals are willing to eat some of his salary. Arenado really does control quite a bit of where he will go, though. So we'll see where he does waive his no-trade clause to go. I'm not surprised. You're surprised no one has got him yet? Well, there's not really a natural fit right now. Now, say Alonso doesn't ultimately sign with the Mets. Maybe he goes there and fills their hole as a first baseman. Say there's an injury. Say the Rangers lose Josh Young again due to injury. Then they could make a quick call to St. Louis, say, hey, what would it take to bring in Helsley and Arenado? Maybe they figure out a package that way. Say there's an injury in Los Angeles and Max Muncy goes down and all of a sudden the place that he's always wanted to go to has a need at third base for him. Maybe something works out there. Not hoping for injuries for anybody. Let's be clear about that. But as you never know with spring training, there's always some type of an injury. And if there's one at third base, first base, or DH, he could easily fill that role somewhere. That's if they got Roki, then you trade Clark. Okay, good. Every postseason, the Yankees lineup is what kills us, not the pitching. It's super frustrating. I'd say their lineup is getting better. They still need another impact bat more than anything else, and there's not really one on the free agent market that they're able to sign. I'd say Bregman would be a great fit, but they don't seem willing to spend the money on it. I'd say Luis Ariz from the Padres on the trade front would be a great fit. Doesn't seem like they want to go that route. So maybe at the trade deadline, if Vlad Guerrero doesn't sign an extension, maybe they go there, or to the Cubs for Kyle Tucker if things aren't working out for the Cubs there. There's all kinds of different options that could be available at the deadline. Maybe the Twins are ready to talk turkey on Carlos Correa at that point. But until we get to the trade deadline, I think the Yankees will wait on their impact bat. All right, let's go ahead and head over to X and see if anything else is happening this evening, and then we'll get into some trade talk as well. The report that I mentioned, MLB trade rumors, a couple other reports as well. Dennis Lin of The Athletic was reporting that the Padres have entertained interest on Robert Suarez. They've also discussed Cronenworth and Cease, and of course, Luis Arraez. They go on down here to discuss other free agents that have signed recently, and Jeff Hoffman and Kittredge, as impacting the relief market and how this might open up a possibility for them to use a position of strength to be able to add some pieces for the future for them to be able to bring in as well. So we'll get into some trades here in just a moment, one including the Padres as well. Not too much happening though, and then of course you get into the speculation about injured guys coming back, when they could make their debut. Manoah coming back in August. John Means looking at a possible reunion with the Orioles, and other guys as well. There's another first base DH target signing a minor league deal with the Braves. Shocker, shocker, shocker. All right, let's head over to X, see if anything is happening there. I like this poll Hector Gomez just put out. What contract extension offer do you think the Blue Jays will make to Vlad Guerrero Jr.? We'll go ahead and do that in our chat here. We'll pick whichever one you guys end up posting in this chat. We'll go ahead and select in this little poll here. What contract offer do you think the Blue Jays will make to Guerrero? Now, don't think of the one that you think that Guerrero will sign. Don't think of the one you think he's worth. Think of the one the Blue Jays would offer to him. 10 for $380 or 12 for $440. So that's a $38 million average annual value. He's 26, going to be 27 when he hits free agency. I would say 12 years is very reasonable as far as the length on that contract. So I would probably go 440 just to, really try to get him to sign the deal. Now, if I could get him for 10 years, great, but I would rather go 12 if I'm the Blue Jays, just to see if I could really get him to sign on that extension, because right now you're just a team right now drifting in the wind. You don't really have a direction as a franchise. Once you sign Guerrero to an extension, now you have a direction. Hey, we have our centerpiece of our team. Now we can build around him. Now we can go back to Bregman and say, hey, look, I know when we approached you earlier, you said you were interested, but you didn't really know if you wanted to sign here. Well, now our situation has changed. We've already spent some money on Vlad Guerrero. We brought in Jeff Hoffman. We're looking to try to do something with Bo Bichette. If Bo Bichette leaves, you'd still have Vlad Guerrero here, and we're still looking to make other things happen as well. So, with all that being said, would you be more interested in signing with us now that we've got an extension done with Vlad Guerrero? So kind of think that, keep that in mind when you think about your answer to this one. Let us know in the chat. Do you think it's A for the 10 or B for the 12? A for the 10, B for the 12. We'll go ahead and post that here in just a second. Catch up on a couple of these comments. Jay Snow, I don't think they like Arraez defense. His glove's terrible. We just went through Gleyber Torres. You did, but I'd say Arraez is a better bat as far as contact rate, on base percentage. I think the impact that he'd have in front of Aaron Judge would be far greater than the impact of Gleyber Torres as far as the offense goes. Now, defensively, I won't say that he's a gold glove defender. I won't even say he's an adequate defender. What I will say is that you can play him wherever you can hide him best. So if that's at DH some days, if at first base some days, if at second base some days, third base occasionally, you can flex him around a little bit. Now, his glove is never going to be great. I think you'd be kidding yourself if you thought it was, but it's a one-year deal. And if it works out, great, you can sign him to an extension after the season or sign him in free agency. If it doesn't work out, hey, no harm, no foul. He leaves after 1 year, and you've kept your powder dry for the future as well. All of this, of course, would be contingent upon them trading Marcus Stroman to create the value there, but we shall see. Welcome in, Joe. Appreciate you joining us. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Got about 80 of you guys with us on a Sunday evening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some NFL playoff football. Commanders ultimately beat the Buccaneers in a good game, one of the few good games we saw this weekend. Ravens kind of cruised to their victory. Bills cruised to theirs. Eagles defeated the Packers as well. And we have one game tomorrow night as well. I will be pulling hard for the Vikings. Originally was a Vikings fan when I was a kid. My dad's a Vikings fan, so I'll be pulling for the Vikings tomorrow night. I just kind of wish the game was still in LA, but understandably the wildfires there, bigger things happening. Just kind of disappointing for Rams fans not to be able to celebrate their team in Los Angeles. But just for the safety and for the law enforcement officers to not have to worry about a game being played in Los Angeles, to have to set up security when they're already having to deal with so much as far as a natural disaster, you can completely understand why the NFL chose to move the game away from Los Angeles. Even if Los Angeles advances, I don't think there's a guarantee that if they did get to host another playoff game, that they would have gotten to play in LA at that point either. So, just a tough way to end their season with Los Angeles. Tough way to really start the year in Los Angeles for all those affected by those wildfires. Jason, I would sign a rise. I just think the Yankees seem to want to value defense. They do value defense a little bit more, and when you bring in a Max Fried, who is more of a ground ball pitcher, you have to put a premium on infield defense. A rise does not, and so that's, I think, the reason why they ultimately chose to go away from him. As much as the impact bat would have helped them, I think they did the calculus in their head and said, hey, we can't really risk having a bad defender in our infield. We've seen how that works before, and we don't need a repeat of that. So I think they'll still get their bat somewhere at the deadline. I just don't think it'll be a rise, even though I think he'd have been great in front of Aaron Judge. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and select the 12 for 440 contract here, and that's the winner. 66% of the vote there makes a lot of sense. See if anything is happening there. Sasaki, however, has turned that system upside down. Man, he's got a long tweet chain here. Basically how Roki's going to change how international bonus money is going to be spent. Well, hello. If international bonus money was already taken care of during the international draft when it was supposed to have been done during the CBA negotiations that they had a year or so ago, we wouldn't even have to worry about this right now. So he'd be subject to that draft and probably be the number one pick, obviously. Just the way the cookie has crumbled now. He has chosen that he wants to come over before he can maximize his value at $200+ million more that he could make in free agency if he had just waited a couple more years. But he took after Shohei and just said, hey, no, I want to come over and compete against the greatest because I want to be the greatest. And so we'll see where he goes. I think there's 7 or 8 good possibilities where he could go. Dodgers, I'd say, are still considered the favorite in general. But I wouldn't say any other teams are necessarily out from that group of 7 or 8 teams. But I would say anybody outside of that 7 or 8 team group really doesn't have a legitimate chance as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there'll be a mystery, dark horse, last-minute bidder there for Sasaki that convinces him to sign. That ain't happening. So we'll see where he goes. All right. Let's see here. Looking at extensions with their own guys. Okay. Let's head over to baseball trade values. And I just wanted to do one trade with you guys tonight. And we'll do that with the San Diego Padres. If you guys want us to do any other trades, feel free to send them our way. We'll evaluate them and post them and see what we can do. But I wanted to look at the Padres and look at their major leaguers and just kind of show you where they're at. One name that we keep mentioning, Luis Arraez, 6.2 value. That's not a whole lot of value as far as what you'd have to give up to bring him in because he's only got 1 year left. But the impact bat certainly would be a difference maker for a lot of teams out there. Jason Adam, who was a great setup man last year, has some closing experience as well, has 1 year left on his contract. I'm surprised his field value is this low after looking at his numbers last year. Surplus value of 3.7, so maybe, just maybe, because he's not a closer specifically, is why his value is a little lower, and maybe because he's a little older, he's 33 years old as a relief pitcher as well, is why that surplus is a little lower. But he's a really good arm, a high leverage guy, if there ever was one. I think he'd be a great trade candidate for somebody to go after. I've heard his name bandied about a couple of different times, but nothing with any legs so far. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Padres had a few calls in on Jason, or come in on Jason Adam over the next couple of weeks once we see some of the top names come off the board in Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, and others. But let's go ahead and do a trade with the one name that was mentioned today in Robert Suarez. See if we can find him on here. His value is negative 6.4. Negative 6.4. You think they're going to give him away for nothing? I would say no. So what does that mean they'd probably have to do? Well, one, you'd probably have to attach another asset to him. Two, you could probably attach something like money. Three, you could just try to offload the salary and save the money there and just try to recoup a couple of prospects, low A-ball prospects there as well. But let's try to do kind of a walk and chew gum kind of a trade, which is what the Padres are trying to do. Try to, thread the needle. So we're going to do something a little interesting. We're going to make this deal a little crazy. And because I know the Rangers probably the best as far as their farm system, I'm just going to use them as an example here. Besides, I think they've at least kicked the tires on a few of these possibilities. So we're going to go down to Luis Arraez. That'll be the first surprise for you guys. Jason Adam, just told you how much I like him. And then we're going to look at the negative asset in Robert Suarez. Negative in quotations, because he's still got good value. It's the contract that's just a little bit high according to baseball trade values. But their relief pitching market has been a little bit off as far as their valuations this offseason. They've been trying to recalculate that, and we'll see what their results are as we get closer to opening day. But right now it's still a work in progress. So just look at the outgoing value here. 3 major leaguers go to the Rangers. Their value cumulatively 3.5. Is that anything that the Padres would say is, hey, that's what I value at 3.5? No. They would say those 3 major leaguers are worth more than that. And I would agree with them. So let's go ahead and throw some money in this deal as well. Let's say we throw in, I don't know, $7 million. They pay down half of the Arraez deal since it's only got 1 year left on it. As opposed to putting money on the Suarez deal, because that one's got 3 years left on that one. Just the money makes it easier on Arraez. 14 divided by 2 is 7, so basically you're paying half of the money there. The reason why you do it is to pay down the contract of Suarez, so basically it's a net neutral asset there. But now your trade value for all 3 pieces goes up to 10.5. So what could the Rangers give up in return? Now remember, walk and chew gum. They're going to want prospects and they're going to want major league talent back. So we'll start with the major league talent back first. What would be worth it? Well, if they start out at the very top of the market, Cody Bradford, they ain't doing that one. Jack Leiter, this could be the type of trade that would make some sense for a trade for Jack Leiter, but I'm going to say no on that one as well. John Gray, they're not going to do a trade like that one. Ezekiel Duran, though, 3.9, good centerpiece of a trade to start. Leody Taveras, that would be a piece that would give them their hole filled in center field. If Profar leaves in free agency, then they can move around Merrill, figure out their outfield from there. Now they've gotten 2 bats for their lineup. Now what do they do with their bullpen? They're losing 2 of their high leverage guys. Of course, they can go in free agency, but now they're saving what? $7 million there. They're saving another $7-8 million on Suarez this year. They're saving another 2 or 3 on Adam. So they're saving what, 14-ish, 15-16 million. You're taking on about 4.5, 6. You're saving about $8 million total. Would be the caps, or would be the luxury tax savings. You could probably sign a couple of $4 million arms, say an AJ Minter. That'd be an arm that you could sign for, say, $4 or $5 million to replace the production of Jason Adam and Suarez. You could sign another couple of guys off of the free agent heap there. Maybe a Kyle Finnegan who has some closer experience. Let me go up to the 24-25 free agent list. Looking at the relief pitchers. So looking at the righties, closers, you could look at Daniel Bard on a 1-year deal. But Finnegan would probably be the guy I would target. Joe Kelly as a late inning reliever. Craig Kimbrell on a 1-year deal. Maybe reunion there could be in the works. Or you go after Jose Leclerc. That would probably be the one I would go after. So say a stack of Leclerc as your closer and Minter as your setup guy. That's your $8 million. You've set up your bullpen again. So Now you don't necessarily need relievers back from Texas because they don't really have a lot to give up that are relievers. Then you go to the prospects that are left for the Rangers. You need about 5-ish million, about 4-ish million back in return from the minor league camp. So you're looking around the market for Winston Santos, Cameron Cawley makes some sense. I would say you go ahead and go for Cawley because I think they're going to try to move on from Cronenworth at some point. Cawley would be a good replacement there at some point there. So you're looking 10.5 for 10.5. And just to push it over the finish line, I'm going to throw in a sweetener. We'll throw in a young shortstop. They love young shortstops. Everybody does. So there you go. Validate the trade. Minor overpay, that's fine. Post it. So there's the trade. Honestly, too many moving names for it to really happen, I think. But I think this is the type of trade that would be exciting for both the Padres and the Rangers. Padres still keep competitive offensive pieces in their lineup. Am I saying Duran is Luis Ariz? No, but I am saying the future of Duran is much brighter on the Padres than the future of Luis Ariz because he's going to be a free agent after the year. And it's doubtful that they're able to re-sign him. We've already heard reports about the inability to sign an extension with him so far this offseason had led them to go through arbitration and ultimately get the one-year deal done there. Now, of course, they still could try to do something, but I just don't see it happening. I think he's going to try to test his value in free agency. As far as Robert Suarez, they're kicking the tires on all ways to improve this roster and save themselves a little bit of money. They're a little bit over the tax right now. I think if they could pare down their payroll just enough and get future assets like these, you're getting 6 years of control out of 2 minor league prospects, one of which could be on the big league roster in a year. Leody Taveras is already a major league hitter, a major league player at the major league level that could easily slide into your outfield. And if he does have that offensive turnaround that the Rangers are hoping for, however unlikely, then you can really capitalize on that. And he plays a great defensive center field. Ezekiel Duran easily fills in wherever you want around the diamond for wherever you were playing Luis Ariz and be a better defender at it. And with consistent playing time, his offensive numbers are surely to go up as well. Let's check in on a few of these comments here. You would sign Ariz. I just think the Yankees seem to value defense. Yes. Jay Snow, how about the Yankees trade for Nico Horner? That one I could see at the trade deadline. I don't see them doing it right now. I don't think the Cubs would want to move off of him right now as they're trying to build up for 2025. Should things go poorly, but Horner come back healthy and have a strong first half of the year, then I could see something like that happening. Give themselves an option there at second base. Angela, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. If the Yankees got Roki, could they end up trading Schmidt and a prospect for an actual infielder, Matt Vierling, for example? Possibly. I would probably shoot a little bit bigger as far as an impact infielder for them. Vierling's a nice piece, but I'd rather go for somebody with a little bit more impact as far as a bat in that infield if I'm giving up a prospect and Schmidt. But that's still with a big caveat there of if they get Roki Sasaki. That's not a given. I don't even think the Dodgers could consider that a given at this point either. So until he gets signed, that's going to really hold up a lot of the negotiations as far as trade talk around starting pitchers and what the rest of the market is going to do on that end of things. Alrighty, let's do another trade here just to kind of wrap things up as well. One that you had mentioned anyway was Ezekiel Duran to the Diamondbacks for Jordan Montgomery. Rangers are still looking for some more innings out of that rotation. So let's go ahead and look at the negative value contracts first because that's where I'm sure he's going to be at. Minus 10 value. Shocking. To the Rangers. Rangers give up Ezekiel Duran. Like I said, $15 million I think would be a bit of an overpay. Montgomery's making $22 this year, so if you got him to pay half of that money, I think that would be a win. So that'd be what, 11? I'll go ahead and kick it up for 15 just for you guys. But if you do that for 15, I think they're going to want Duran and possibly a smaller piece as well. Let's go to the Rangers side of things. We'll throw in a 21-year-old starting pitcher that probably will never make it to the big leagues, but depth in your organization. Voila. Validate. Fair trade. Post. And there's the trade for you. Jordan Montgomery in cash to the Rangers, basically paying him $7 million. If you believe some reports out there, that would be the entirety of the money that they have left. Whoa, what do you mean? They're going to give up all their money that they could give to a closer? Hold on. The market or the contracts that they signed for Nathan Eovaldi and Jock Peterson are severely backloaded. So that's why they're going to have roughly 15 to 20 million still to spend in free agency that right now. Now, do you want to spend your entire budget before you even get to the trade deadline? No, but you do want to build out the best team that you possibly can. And I would try to do this move even if they brought in Roki Sasaki, because then you get two guys to add to that rotation. I think for sure you would go with a six-man rotation at that point. Your rotation, if you're going six-man, say you get Montgomery and Sasaki, I would go DeGrom, Eovaldi, Molly, Montgomery, Sasaki, Rocker. Bradford, I'd still have waiting in the wings because I think someone out of that group is going to miss time at certain points during the year, and so I think Bradford is another guy that's going to give you another 120 innings as a starter. So that's your kind of six-man rotation there. I think Dane Dunning is going to be piggybacking with Jacob deGrom like he did his first year he was here. That combo worked really well for the Rangers. I think that'll do well again this year. But then what do? You'll notice the one name that I didn't mention was John Gray, because I think if they did something like this and brought in Roki Sasaki, now the one guy that they could probably count on more than some of the other options to eat innings in that rotation isn't quite as necessary, and they can use his contract, trade him away, save some money on him. The trade that we made with the Milwaukee Brewers the other day would be the ideal trade I would try to make if I was the Rangers, but wherever you can get decent value for him and not have to retain salary, then go out there and spend your money in free agency on Kirby Yates, or go trade route, bring in Helsley, bring in Duran, all kinds of options as well there. Let's go ahead and check out the profile so you guys can check out a few of the trades that I keep referencing. This was one trade we made yesterday anyway, just to kind of offload his salary to the Reds. Then you're still looking for an innings-eating starter. That would be one possibility. Those were the Yankees or the Angels trying to eat some of the salaries from bad contracts in order to acquire some starting pitching or some high-end prospects out of those deals without having to give up much in return. That was the thought process behind those there. This was the trade I was just referencing for Duran. That's one name I could expect to be bandied about around the trade deadline, and this would be the trade I'd try to do for that one. And then the last one was the one for the Brewers I wanted to look at. Jesus Mate has really seen his prospect status go up, but for a controllable piece like Josh Smith, you get a top prospect out of it as well in Dylan Dreiling, a former second-round pick, and another starting pitcher for your rotation. Maybe, just maybe, the Brewers say yes to something like that. Rangers, they love their competitive balance picks. They save the money on Gray. They get an up-and-coming prospect in Mate, and I love the idea of Pena as well in this deal. So we'll see what the Rangers do with John Gray, but still, more dominoes have to fall. Pretty much everything when you talk about any starting pitching right now, just go ahead and add a big old asterisk with Roki Sasaki's name right next to it. Because all of these rumors, all of these ideas are with the thought that either A, he goes here, or B, he goes there. So all of that is going to have to be on hold until he actually makes his decision. Then we can start having real conversations about where these guys could go. Alrighty, appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Thank you guys. Appreciate those of you guys who sent us a like. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook at Upside Sports Network. We'll be live every single night bringing you all the latest news from MLB's Hot Stove, all during the off season and throughout the regular season as well. So be sure to join us here at the Upside and hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow night. Y'all have a good one. Stay safe out there. Thoughts and prayers with all of you guys affected by those wildfires. Stay safe, everybody.